We do a lot of consulting for cities, for companies, for industrial automation, electronics design. We are doing all of those projects. We are also creating a network across the country for low power sensor networks, and we'll talk a little bit about it later in the presentation today. And we are also getting ready for doing managed operations of these highly new and I would say critical, mission critical applications and networks that are going to be there in the smart cities, so that we can help our customers and the cities run such sophisticated systems over a period of time. So what we do is we create smart city networks and smart city solutions. We start from conceptualizing it with our customers. We design, build, operate, and we have a patent pending application for monetizing the data that is going to come out from such applications and such sensors across the city. So I'm going to stop there in terms of telling you what we do. And in this context, I'm going to tell you about what has happened in the telecom industry over the last 5 to 10 years, I would say, to transform what telecom companies are going to do in the future and what they should be doing. I come from a telecom background. For the last 20 years. I have been consulting and I have been CIOs of various telecom companies across the world. And I am bringing that perspective to the table today in the webinar. So if I am not answering a particular question later today, because I'm going to address it from the point of view of advances in telecom technologies. There's a whole lot to talk about other things, which we will do in subsequent seminars, webinars that are going to happen on the 29th and the 6th of this month and the 5th of next month. Let's take a look at the market size of smart cities. Across the world, a lot of cities are trying to deal with urbanization. They are looking at various solutions, and it is going to increase significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. If you take a look at this analysis by Arthur D. Little, from 2012 to 2020, you're looking at a $2.1 trillion industry where people are looking at utilities, transforming transport and logistics, medical and health, education, building automation, security, public planning and administration. General city planning is getting impacted, tourism and retail, financial service, and finally, the underpinning of all of this is a lot of connectivity. So if you take a look at the entire market size of smart cities, we are going to see an enormous telcos across the domain who are going to participate in this growth. And given the new project by the government on smart cities in India, the 100 Smart Cities project, we are hoping that in the next 5 years, India is going to produce some really innovative solutions which can be taken to market across the world. So I am very optimistic about the fact that while the world is trying to come to terms with what it is, we have taken a giant leap. We don't know exactly what it means yet. We don't know what will work, but at least we have started the journey towards making many of our cities smart. Now, what does that mean? I'll talk about that in the next subsequent slides. If you take a look at various cities across the world, what is happening there? There's a lot of cities which are just marketing. They want to improve the image of the city. They are not investing much. They are rebranding it. They are changing the name of the city. They are creating beautiful logos. They're giving the city a good aesthetic look. Atlanta, Bern, Frankfurt, a lot of cities in the US, Europe have moved into this domain where they have really taken a uniform view of how the city should present itself to its citizens and to visitors who come to the city. They have definitely made a huge impact, and even if we can start here in India with just changing that, we will make a significant progress towards smart cities in India. Then there's a whole lot of cities which are doing pilots with one vertical, two verticals, where they are bringing in technology, bringing in city planning, they are bringing in architects, bringing in smart people to come and look at how they can change the lives of the citizens across the city. You have got cities like Dubai, Berlin, Paris, which are quite ahead in terms of what they are doing in terms of reading all kinds of sensors, providing automation for its transport fleet, providing a common card that all the citizens can use, essentially trying to make the lives of the citizen better. Then you've got certain cities which have created vertical solutions across various new verticals. Luxembourg, Vienna, Helsinki, we have got solutions over there where people are looking at larger rollouts of these vertical solutions, let's say power or gas or internet solutions across the entire city. And then you've got cities which have said that we need to create a full platform which is going to allow electronics, telecom, IT completely embedded into transport, utilities, quality of life improvement across the entire city space. Barcelona, Seoul, Rio, you will see Nanjing, Manchester, a lot of these are cities, if you look at the last three, Seoul, Barcelona, Rio, are cities which have had Olympic Games. They have used the concept of the game to roll out a lot of these solutions because they were expecting a lot of customers to be there. They had to improve their response system for emergencies. They had to improve their surveillance systems. They had to improve their transport systems. And they had to do better city planning. So a lot of these cities which are today very high on the smart city maturity level are cities that took a particular event or a particular major program of the country to transform themselves. And I think this whole program that this government has done in terms of 100 smart cities is such a program where we are getting millions of people to come together and asking them what they can do and how to improve the quality of life. So I'm going to stop there in terms of telling you that smart cities are here to stay. It is happening across the world. It is not a phenomenon in India. Technology companies, architecture companies, general social investment companies are coming in and looking at this potential, and I think we are going to make a huge way here in India to provide these solutions across the world. These are very few cities which have done it, and we are going to have a lot of them over the next 4 or 5 years. A lot of these telecom technologies that we are going to talk about today, what has happened is that people have looked at how do you connect devices, how do you gather data across various technology segments. Are you going to look at your LAN area? LAN is local area network, where you're looking at few meters to few tens or hundreds of meters, and areas where you can cover. There are well established standards for creating LAN infrastructure. Wi-Fi, any 100-meter Wi-Fi ranges we have seen. They are good for mobile devices, in-home services, short range. They are not meant for connecting devices in the long range. So telecom technology in the short range is fairly established. It is happening. It is already there. And a lot of cities, not just in India but across the world, have rolled out services for Wi-Fi, have rolled out, and a lot of device companies have come and said we are going to use Bluetooth for communicating between devices. But all of these technologies consume a lot of battery. They are not good for long-range communication. Now on the other hand, on the right-hand side, if you look at the screen, you are going to see cellular technologies, and we are quite familiar with that. Again, well-established standards, 3G, 4G standards are there from GSMA, and we are seeing these things roll out. People are also talking about 5G technologies, and before we see 4G rollout, I'm quite certain that many countries will have rolled out 5G services where 100 gigabits per second network connectivity can be provided to you at various parts of the country. Again, they are very good for long range, a very high data rate coverage, but again, it is not good for battery life, and the cost of the end devices and the cost of connecting using cellular technologies has been a prohibitive factor for mass rollout of connecting non-intelligent devices to the network. Now comes the center part, which is the low power, wide area networks. Now here is where I'm going to spend a little bit of time, because this is where new things are happening. New things are happening because people are looking at the physical layer. A lot of definition is still happening. A lot of companies are coming in. A company called Sigfox, a consortium called LoRa, a company called Newell came up, which was got bought over by Huawei. There's a few other companies which have come in to create an Internet of Objects. They are creating network connectivity between devices that were not connected to the network before. It is very good for long range, very good for long battery life, very low cost, and localization is possible. But it is not good for high data rate. It is not good for connecting cameras. It is not good for connecting always connected devices like your home broadband network or home security networks. But this can always be an alternative to connect your devices across the board. So here is the plethora of technology options that you have got when you look at any city, and we are going to see that more and more smart cities are going to absorb and create layers of these technologies. If you take a look at the predictions which are being done by Analysis Mason, Cisco and others, you are going to see that the low power technology growth is phenomenal. Over the next 5 years, we are going to see significant growth in devices which are connected for low power, these low power devices in the center, both industrial, consumer, utilities, smart buildings, where we are not going to assume that there is a cellular infrastructure. We are not going to assume that there is a Wi-Fi infrastructure. This IoT wide area network is going to assume that there is a sensor network across the city and devices are going to connect up to this. The growth rate is phenomenal over the next 5 years in this particular area. We are going to see cities come up with various solutions. They are going to be private networks. These private networks are individually managed networks. They're going to be used for metering, security, home automation, industrial controls. They're also going to be used for public networks. The carriers are going to come in and provide networks for telecom operations. It's a lot more scalable model. The carriers know what they are doing. They know how to manage a network. And I come from that domain, so I know exactly what these public networks are going to be used for. So we think that we need to create a public network and allow metering and security and home automation and things that can be brought on board on a telco grade service. So we are going to see overlaps of these private and public networks in the future for smart cities. So this is where telecom is going. You are going to see both private and public in the wide area. Let me now tell you how a device becomes smart, because it is very important for everybody to understand how you can take a simple product like a car or an electricity meter, and how do you make it into a smart product? How do you make it into a smart connected product? So you essentially take an electricity meter, you retrofit it with device, make it digital. You're able to now read the meter and you're able to bring it to a device. You're able to read the meter on a mobile device and able to give you readings on your mobile device. If you take a car or any form of transport, you're able to get onboard diagnostics. Today, all cars have got onboard diagnostics, but you don't have access to it. Suddenly, when you take the onboard diagnostics and you give those onboard diagnostics to people, to actual users on a smartphone, it becomes a smart connected product. The next step from this comes in when you expose this smart meter. Let me now take the example of a meter. And you expose the meter reading both to the consumer on one side and also the producer of electricity, producer of water, producer of gas. And you expose the same data to both sides. So it becomes a system, it becomes a product system. And then you take the same information and you stick it into a system of systems. This smart ecosystem for meters can lead to us having smart metering. Smart metering means, again, you are able to read the meter in real time and see how much consumption you're going to have for water, power, gas. We can also take the same metering and expose it to a smart grid solution. And when you move to a smart grid, you're going to do demand management. You're going to be able to plan how much generation you're going to have. You're going to be able to do distribution automation. You can also do consumer and revenue management from the same meter reading. And also you are able to do outage and alarm management. You can plug in the same information about meter reading and expose it to a smart city, building automation. You can connect it to electric vehicles. You can connect it to emergency services. You can expose the same ecosystem to smart homes. Again, the idea is to read a meter, communicate the data across various consumers, and successfully be able to reduce the consumption or improve the efficiency of a city or your home, and to do this quite uniformly across different services. So this is how I have explained the meter. We can take a different scenario and move to the transport example that I was talking about. Earlier you were just tracking a vehicle, but once you start exposing the tracked vehicle to the end consumer, you suddenly have intelligent transport. So a lot of cities are today talking about intelligent transport systems. They're talking about you knowing where your train is, about you knowing where your bus is. So you don't have to wait too long in the bus station. Your bus station has got information about when the bus is coming, in how many minutes will the bus come. The person who is managing the fleet knows how to manage his fleet. He knows where the fleet is. He knows the diagnostics of the vehicle. It knows whether the vehicle is going to lose air, has got enough fuel, knows whether any engine part is going to break down. It is also going to know driver behavior. Again, a same set of equipment is producing this data. Intelligent transport systems can be created, collision avoidance, emergency vehicle notification. As soon as there is an accident, you should be able to transmit that information today through back-end systems. You can have electronic toll collection. Again, using the same technology, you can sense a vehicle, you can connect it back to his wallet and be able to collect toll for it. You should be able to also do speeding, you should be able to do illegal parking. You can solve various problems from having a system of systems, and not one of them might be a business case together by itself. But if you look at the entire gamut of services that can be provided, suddenly there is a business case, not just once but many times over. So our prediction is that we are going to see a lot of telecom technologies lending themselves to this new paradigm. There is a whole architecture framework that is required for making it happen. We talked about, on the bottom of the screen, you will see the personalized, personal and local area networks. There are wireless and wireline technologies which are being used so that we can connect a device to the network. Then there is the wide area network. In the wide area networks, we can have cellular technology, satellite, and we were creating a machine network with various technologies that are available today for low power, waveless technologies, ultra narrowband, 6-low-pan, which are all different technologies which is going to allow a machine network to get connected. On top of this framework, you'll need to have a platform which is able to read this device, is able to get the data, is able to pay and settle, and you're able to expose this to businesses. You're exposing the same device to homes, to industries, and create the management framework for it. So when we see this entire ecosystem of systems that are required, we will see hundreds of companies which are coming up in various parts of this ecosystem, solutions to make this whole thing happen. So this whole concept of telecom technologies and looking at the framework required in the back, we are going to see a lot of new startups coming in and providing these solutions, and a lot of existing companies are gobbling up these startups to provide end-to-end services across this architectural framework. We are going to see a network of networks. We are going to see smart cities creating layers of Wi-Fi meshes, ultra-narrowband technologies, 2G, 3G, 4G networks, and mesh networks of various types of sensors. They are going to backhaul all of this into data centers, not just one data center, but into the cloud. They are going to bring data from all of these networks and be able to take it to applications and provide that same information to various providers, providers of utility services, providers of gas, water, transport networks, providers of sensing water quality, air quality, and providing this small pieces of information to all the citizens such that everybody has information available to take actions in the city. So I think this is where the future is going for telecom. It is going to be a layer of networks which are going to be available. This needs to be virtualized and made open and transparent to technology providers, to IT providers, to solution providers, to internet company providers. And this is the new telco business model. The telcos have moved from providing just bandwidth to providing multi-service consumer business bundles like voice, video, data to smart telcos, where we are going to have personalized and adaptable digital services, where we are going to integrate and converge various network systems, apps and devices. This service provider is going to be able to switch, instead of voice, video, data and mobile, we are going to be able to switch information from health, industry, offices, cars, homes, utilities, and be able to provide this in an industrial grade, to be able to provide it in a telco grade service. I think this transformation of the network business model is what is going to get the telecom companies looking at the next round of investment, next round of intelligence that they need to provide for the next 10 years, 20 years. We're going to see a lot of development happening across the board in this space. It is not just about telecom. We are going to see companies coming in the data integration space, where you're going to ingest the data from all kinds of devices. We are going to see a lot of companies coming in the data modeling and analytics space, where they're going to provide insight. How much water is being consumed? How much water is being wasted? How are people congregating? Where are people traveling? How are you supposed to design cities better? Data is going to drive how decision is going to be made, because telecom technologies, sensor technologies, analytics technologies are becoming ubiquitous and available across the board for companies, for cities to use to make themselves smart. I think this is the future of where things are going, and we will see a lot of startups just like ours coming into space, providing these solutions to make our lives better. Our cities are going to be able to provide integrated services. You should be able to take gas, water, power, phone, internet, security, entertainment, be able to order all of it, be able to track all of them. You're able to be able to contact each provider separately. The city is going to become a service aggregator. City is going to be able to bring together all these services and connect them and be able to provide you the customer service that has already happened in some areas. It is happening in some cities, and we are going to see some of it happening here in India as well. But a lot more needs to be done. Today, our telecom in India, we see a lot of problems. We need to completely upgrade the telecom infrastructure. We need to reduce the urban clutter of wires. I mean, the picture that I show you in the back is not something which is unreal. This is happening in every city. There is congestion of wires all around. Every city has got these things. Even our entire fiber infrastructure in big cities like Mumbai is going from treetops. It is hanging from trees. We need to improve that. We need to remove this urban clutter of wires. We need to share our infrastructure and share information. On the right-hand side, you will see pictures of shared telecom towers. We have started seeing some of these coming up in cities. We are going to see a lot more of this happening. With the government moving to shared infrastructure, shared spectrum, and shared active infrastructure, we are going to see cities getting into the business of providing this tower infrastructure. We are seeing a lot of problems of telecom companies getting access to land to create these towers. There's a lot of concern about health, which unfortunately is unreal. It is not tangible. There's a lot of sources of radiation. I know there will be a lot of questions about this, but we will see when spectrum is shared, when tower infrastructure is shared, we are actually going to be able to reduce the total amount of radiation that is there in the environment, because we are able to share the spectrum that is available. Instead of everybody beaming every frequency in every direction, we are going to be able to now reduce our consumption of telecom waves by being able to be selective of where we are going to beam. and how we are going to be, where we are going to focus our energies across the board. So we are going to see cities getting into this service. We need to construct with proper equipment. I have worked in Geo, so I will tell you, they made the first step towards buying right amount of HDD machines, horizontal cutters, and right amount of equipment to put in the fiber across the country. We need to move to better construction of our cities, and our telecom company should lead the way in making this happen. We need to provide conduits in every street such that we don't have to dig it up every time. We need to provide increased coverage of phones and broadband, and that is going to happen in these cities. There's going to be demand from the cities to do that. And we need to finally create a network for sensors and devices. All of this is what is going to happen in telecom in India over the next few years. We are going to see the cities demanding this reduction of clutter and the sharing of infrastructure. And the rest of it, I'm quite sure the telecom companies are already working towards using proper equipment, creating the shared infrastructure across the city. And this, fortunately or unfortunately, needs to happen across transportation, across power, across water, across gas, and across all kinds of tracking services. We need to share infrastructure. We need to create better shared piping, better designed infrastructure where people are spending money to get it right instead of doing it in a haphazard way that we have done so far. We have got an opportunity through this new program. Let us make best use of it instead of shooting it down as one more mission that is not going to work. We need to work together with all the parties, collaborate with everybody, and find solutions for this across all the different utilities that are there. Let me go for the next couple of slides. I'll tell you what is being sensed and why is telecom required. What kinds of sensors are there? We have to measure everything in a smart city. We're going to measure gas for leakages. We're going to measure light for switching on, switching off various things, for control of various devices, for measuring how many cars are going by, measuring pressure, water pressure, gas pressure. We can measure the weight of vehicles going past for solid waste management. We can measure temperature for various industries, for milk, for all kinds of situations where temperature has to be measured. Humidity, moisture, acceleration, vibration, corrosion. These are being used for understanding how the cities are working. And if you take a look at what are being used for, they're being used in construction. These are being used for fire, earthquake, flood, weather, soil monitoring. They are looking at parking and shopping, emergency medical treatment, for agriculture. They're being used for highway management and tracking, for looking at railway bridges, for failure, suspension. All of these things can be tracked today and monitored, and the data transmitted over wireless and wireline infrastructure back to centralized, not single but distributed command centers across the whole country. We see a lot of potential of where telecom, electronics, and IT are going to come together for making our cities smart. Again, I borrowed one more picture from Hitachi, which sort of shows how these things, from RFID tags to centers to homes to power grids to water grids, all of these things are going to send information over carrier networks, wired and wireless, and have service enablers in the M2M industry to make sure that we are authentic and secure. We are enhancing the data. We are being able to control these devices. And we are going to have solutions on top for logistics, for disaster, for home, for screens, for electric utilities, and be able to provide this uniformly like a telecom company. So this ecosystem is what we are trying to create now in Gaia. If you take a simple phone today, these are all people-based sensors. There are 14 sensors today in terms of what is there in a typical phone. In fact, it is growing, and we are going to be able to use these to figure out where people are going, what are they closed for payments, for touch, for figuring out how much light is there in each location. So we are being able to use the phone, which is there ubiquitously today across the country, to make sure that we are keeping our cities safe and our people safe in the city. The market is huge. If I take a look at what people are talking about in terms of smart metering, in terms of smart cities, homes, agriculture, tracking, this whole device connectivity, not just in low power, I will extend this to both low power and M2M cellular, people are talking about millions and hundreds of millions of devices which will get connected and which will require telecom companies to rise up to this occasion. It is not there today, but technologies are coming in to make sure it happens in the near future. I'm going to give you an example of how we are going to be able to use a simple technology like LoRa and cover an entire city and from a very high point and be able to provide small devices to send information across the board. Now this can be used for any other technology like LoRa. There are different comparisons that can be used for what to use. Are we going to use LTE-M, which is the next generation of 4G technology that is going to happen, that is also got device connectivity, Sigfox, LoRa, Zigbee, these are all different technologies. As you can see, their range is from 700 meters to 20 kilometers in rural areas. So we have been able to cover large tracts of land and large number of devices to each data, and some of them are being able to transmit more than a megabit per second to get cameras, to get images, to get streaming data across. And if you look at the battery life, some of these things can last forever, 5 years, 10 years. And these are the kinds of technologies we are talking about where we will be able to scale them at telco grade across the country. But these are not easy. There's a lot of problems for these new network operators, and we need to identify these problems. I'm sure there will be questions that each one of you will be asking. What is the security? What are the networks? Are the networks secure? Are they prone to cyber terrorism and cyber vandalism? The answer is absolutely. They are all prone to the same set of problems as existing telecom technologies, and we have to be more and more cautious about what is possible. We need to be providing security infrastructure around it. We should be able to separate what is secure and what is not. What is a sensor and what is an actuator? Who owns the data? Who will own the right to the data that is collected from all these sensing applications? Again, we need to be extremely clear about the data ownership and privacy of information that will be collected. We need to develop trust. Today, a lot of us have developed trust on Google, and we keep giving Google a lot of information about where we are, what are we doing, what kind of searches we are doing. Are you able to provide that same trust to other providers who are going to have information? All your apps on all your phones are collecting lots of data. You have already started trusting this digital infrastructure. So we will have to learn some more and also be very clear about data ownership. We need to be worried about social issues. Are we going to create a disconnect between people who have these devices, have this information, and people who don't have this information? As cities, we need to make sure that this information that we are collecting is made available to everybody in the most ubiquitous way. What is the cost of upgrading? We are just stepping into a new set of technologies, and I'm quite sure even before we get the first round of solutions up and running, these will require upgrade. Technology is moving too fast. Standards are being done quite extensively, but I'm quite sure that we are going to see upgrades more and more often over the next 4 or 5 years, and be prepared for it. The complete control by governing bodies, illegally tracking people. Are we invading somebody's privacy? We need to be aware of it. We need to be conscious that if it is the city's infrastructure, then the city has every right to track. But if it is your own infrastructure, we need to be clear on what we are doing there. And who is going to do the coordination between the sensor nodes? Is there a governing body? Are there rules and regulations that are being looked at? And let me tell you that today in India, all our regulatory bodies are looking into this. We have got councils in DOT, we have got councils in PSDSI, in Bureau of Indian Standards, in TRAI, who are asking these questions, who have got experts working with them to formulate some of these answers so that we are able to leapfrog into the smart city domain quite securely and with all confidence, such that we are an example to the rest of the world. So I'm going to stop here. and I'm going to open it up for questions from all of you and take it from there. Thank you.
Mr. Sumit, questions are already shared with you.
I'm looking at the questions over here. Yeah, so we have a question from Rohit Kaul, and the question is, thanks for the informative session, but isn't it all about automating things? Where is the smart city innovation we have all been talking about? So smart city innovation absolutely is going to happen when we find practical uses of the technology we were talking about, this automation that we were talking about. We are looking at innovation that is happening in smart metering. We are looking at innovation that is happening in analysis of this data. Earlier people were reading, I'll give you an example of smart metering and where telecom technologies are changing things. So today we have got all industrial power meters are being read in real time, at least 4 times an hour or even more sometimes. And our power generation companies are able to predict very, very accurately how much consumption that is there in our in the commercial meters. They have still not able to achieve that in the domestic meters. So new technologies are going to come in which is going to make it available for domestic meters as well. We are going to see the price points coming down because of innovation. We are going to see a lot of analytics coming because of innovation. It's just in metering. Now if we move to tracking, we are seeing a lot of tracking. Tracking used to happen before. Tracking and GPRS technologies. But we are seeing a lot of new ways in which people are being tracked. You're able to track even a keyring, you're able to track your dogs, you're able to track your vehicles at a fraction of a cost because of these new innovative technologies which are using long-range devices. We are seeing innovation that is happening in wearables where you're able to monitor a lot of your personal health statistics and able to communicate back with healthcare providers. Again, this was happening, but the cost at which it is happening today, there's a lot of innovation that is happening in that space. We are looking at design. We are seeing a lot of innovation that where people are going to use data to do better design. Where are people congregating? We are going to see a lot of innovation that is happening in designing how wide the street should be. Earlier these were all gut feel technologies. Now we are going to move from a gut feel to a measured and responsive design. We are going to see building design change in innovation where you're going to see buildings coming up with smart buildings where we'll be able to meter everything. We are able to provide green buildings. And green buildings doesn't just mean that we are consuming less, we are able to measure everything. The idea of smart anything is about measuring and taking action. Only then you are smart. We are seeing smart innovation happening in smart agriculture. In smart agriculture, we are seeing sensors which are doing soil quality, soil moisture, and be able to predict how much water and how much fertilizer that needs to be there. Again, low power technologies over wide areas make it viable commercially as well as ease of use. So we are seeing innovation happening across the board where we are using these low cost, low power technologies to solve wide area urban problems, which will help us. This webinar today is about telecom technologies. We are going to see a lot more discussion around sensors a lot more discussion around this integration over the next 2 webinars as well. So I'm going to stop and take the next question. And if there is a follow-on from Rohit, he can continue asking. The next question that I've got is from Alok Varshni. He talked about data security protection against hacking and misuse in the digital domain. The information that is being collected today, we are going to see a lot more information. This lot more information which is will be both context and sensitive and context insensitive. A lot of data will be context insensitive, where you will collect the data, you will not know where and who has generated the data, but you will be able to know that there are 10,000 people who have congregated. You might not know who it is. We are going to be, those kinds of data can be used quite easily by cities to do all kinds of planning. But however, if there is personal information available, we need to be very, very clear whether we are giving on data security and protection. The same data security and protection that is there in today's technology will apply to tomorrow's technologies as well. And hackers are there 2 steps ahead of us always. So we need to be creating sometimes proprietary networks such that it prevents hackers from coming in for a period of time. Sometimes standardization creates ease for hackers to come in. Proprietary protocols, proprietary technologies which is going to allow you to have your own personal encryption of your data is in the works, and you're going to see your ability to protect your own data in your own control. There is worldwide outrage about this, so we are going to see development happening in this space where your own data will be protected by your own codes, and we have to work very hard to prevent misuse of this information all the time. The telcos have been very clear in the past of what they have used. The telcos have been very clear of the responsibility that they had. You are not able to get data from the telcos genuinely without having a warrant. We are going to see similar security arrangements being put in place such that machine data is also available in the same rigor as your telco information. But does that mean it will be fully secure and unhackable? I sincerely doubt. There will be cases where we will see people coming in and getting our data. We need to be very clear on what we do with it. We need to be very clear on how we are going to tackle these problems, and we need to be ahead in terms of our regulation so that we are not behind it like we are today in India. We are behind our cyber guidelines. We need to get ahead of it when we are looking at M2M, machine to machine and machine data. We need to be ahead in terms of our security. We need to be ahead in terms of our laws in the country protecting our data. So that was my answer for the question from Alok. If you again have subsequent question, you can ask separately. The next question is from Shahab Buran. His question was, what is your view on the role of Wi-Fi monetization in terms of smart cities? My view is that a lot of cities started promising free Wi-Fi when they started looking at calling themselves smart cities. They looked at providing internet access as a way for providing information to people. And absolutely, when the city says that it is going to give Wi-Fi for free, it is expected that it is going to look like water for free. After some time, you cannot give water for free. It needs to be charged. And cities have actually come up with mechanisms by which they are giving some amount of water for free, some amount of internet for free, but are going to cap it. And after that cap, providers are going to be able to charge for Wi-Fi and give them better quality of service. Across the board today, all providers are doing exactly that. They are providing information, providing Wi-Fi access for free for some time, but charging you for a plan afterwards. We are going to see more of this happening. There are models which people have come out where you can watch an ad, or you can buy a service, buy some other service and get some amount of Wi-Fi free because of that. Now these models have happened in the past as well, and we are going to see cities can budget for providing Wi-Fi As far as the provider is concerned, the cities can pay for it, but as far as the consumers are concerned, the city can provide a service called the Wi-Fi service. Like water, like road, internet connectivity is going to be made available and should be made available for removing the digital divide that is there in the country. So that is my personal view. We are yet to see the cities propose something other than what I have said so far. The next question is from Ravi Boba. His question was, what is the role of tower infrastructure companies in smart cities? I see a huge opportunity for tower infrastructure companies to consolidate their towers into smart towers. When I say smart towers, we are talking about shared active and passive infrastructure in integrated tall towers, the kind of pictures that I showed during my presentation. We need to move to those kinds of integrated towers such that we can reduce urban clutter. Obviously, it reduces the amount of business that is there between the various tower companies, but our cities should mandate and become stakeholders in and shareholders in these tower companies, tower infrastructure companies, and cities should provide this common infrastructure to the tower companies, to the telecom companies, such that they become a shareholder in this game. So far, we have seen cities playing only a rental game. The cities actually have lost out on this. The cities have allowed private buildings to allow towers to come up. The private buildings have got the rent, but the cities have not been able to capitalize, and therefore we have seen a lot of towers coming up. We should be able to reduce this by at least a fourth in the smart cities. And I can tell you that all the 20 cities that have put proposals have mentioned something about towers and about reducing the urban clutter of wires that are there. So we are going to see a lot of consolidation that should be demanded out of these tower infrastructure companies. That is my personal view, but it is also reflected in many proposals that have come out of the cities. We have got one next question which have come from Raghavan. Two technologies from the GSM and LTE family that will make big impact is LoRa, EC, GSM and NB-IoT getting into global networks this year and next respectively. Gets the device low cost, addresses range, security, battery. With this, do you see non-standard LoRa technologies proliferating as much in India as they have in Europe? We are going, my personal opinion is that we are going to see standard LoRa proliferating, not non-standard LoRa proliferating. We are going to see the next round of GSM and LTE based device thing happening only 3 to 4 years from now. In the meantime, we are going to see a lot of LoRa based or SIGFOX based rollouts in the country, in the world. These will become standard. And we are going to see interoperability between these network technologies. That is the only way we are going to survive. There is a lot of devices to be connected. They don't need to be all on the same network technology. These devices should be agnostic to the network technology, and the entire end-to-end solution need to be agnostic to the network technology which is there. So we are going to see a full range of technology going to come to create interoperable infrastructure for IoT devices. The next question has come from Arpit Jain. He thinks that when we say that the global smart city market size to be $2 trillion USD, what percentage of it will be required to set up the telecom infrastructure as the backbone? I am not aware of a number which I can say in this webinar. Arpit, if you write to me separately or DM me on WhatsApp or on Twitter, I should be able to find that out and let you know. At this point in time, I don't have an answer to it directly. But if I take a look at what is being talked about in terms of telecom infrastructure as the backbone, a lot of fiber rollout is going to happen as part of this, but only 3 to 4% would be my guess today of infrastructure for the backbone will be created, because a lot of cities have already got a lot of fiber on the ground. This is the backbone infrastructure will be fiber, and we should not doubt it. There is going to be fiber backbone, but when I look at the last mile connectivity, there is going to be a lot of variation in the last mile connectivity. A lot of different technologies will come in, and we will see technology part of this smart 2 trillion industry to be anywhere between 5 to 10% of the whole thing. It is not more than that. A lot of it has got to do with core infrastructure. A lot of it has got to do with core water supply, road, transport, hospitals, schools, also which contribute to the overall smart city infrastructure. So that is what is going to see a lot of consumption of this. But ICT, IT, telecom, and communication technologies is going to be embedded in each of these operational technologies that we see in water, in power, in gas. And we are going to see this consuming a lot of this 2 trillion which is available in the next 4 to 5 years in smart cities. The next question is from Sanjay. He said, will Gaia invest in network infrastructure like OFC and network devices? The short answer is that we will not invest in OFC for sure. We will invest in and roll out network devices which will allow last mile technologies, and this will not be restricted to one type of technologies. We are looking at various solutions which is going to allow different kinds of technologies, and we are going to layer it over a virtualization layer which we are building to allow different devices to connect over various different network technologies to common backhaul, common backbone, to common IT infrastructure in the back. I have a question from Neha. The question is, it's a long question, so I'm going to just read it out. Current state of telecom industry, now that we are moving into the smart cities project, will the change in telecom infrastructure will incur much more cost using existing structures than it would have been using new structures? We are going to see a lot of new structures being built. We are going to see a lot of new underground fiber in these 20 smart cities. All of them are talking about building their own underground infrastructure. They are all talking about common tower infrastructure. So a lot of new infrastructure will happen in these new cities, because the existing infrastructure is fair and square outdated. It is confusing, and it is not mapped on any common mapping infrastructure today. So I am quite certain that we are going to see new infrastructure come up in the telecom infrastructure space in the smart cities, because there is mandate from these cities to reduce the clutter that is there. So therefore, the only way to reduce clutter would be to put underground ducts, will be to create common tower infrastructure, and that will create a whole new opportunity for telecom companies as well as providers to telecom companies to give services. The next question is from Rajesh Prothi. What, according to you, India requires? New cities which by default will have smart component built in, or remolding of existing cities into smart ones? And in either case, what is more challenging? Very good question from you, Rajesh. We will see a lot of cities coming up which are in the latter, which is remolding of existing cities into smart ones. But that does not remove the need for our cities to grow outside and create new cities which will have inbuilt smart components. at least inbuilt smart planning. The planning of these new cities that have come up today are like Naya Raipur, like gift cities. These are new cities which by design have got lots of new thinking into it. Better infrastructure planning has been done. What is lacking in these new cities is people. What is lacking in these new cities is use of these smart components for improving the quality of life of people, because these are really new cities. It is going to take anywhere between 10 to 30 years for these cities to start being lived in. And once they are lived in, will the smart infrastructure be of any use to mankind? I personally believe that we need to improve the quality of life of existing people using simple mechanisms, using simple information. You don't need a lot of technology, you don't need a lot of investment to improve the quality of life in existing cities. A little bit of integrated thinking, a little bit of cooperation between the various city departments, a little bit of cooperation between businesses and cities, a little bit of cooperation between the people, the citizens, and the companies and the cities will go a long way to make the quality of life better. We do not need to invest large amounts of money. We do not need to invest into new infrastructure. That is my personal opinion, and I sincerely hope that we will see a lot of cooperation from citizens and businesses to make our city smart. The next question is from Vishal Jain. His question is, what would be scope of voice over IP deployments, and how can a manufacturer of voice over IP gear support the partner like you for deployments of voice over IP solutions in smart city projects? A lot of IP based network technologies are going to be rolled out by these smart cities. So this data network that is being rolled out as part of the smart city project will require some voice communication. IP is already being rolled out. So you're going to have cameras which are going to be IP cameras. You're going to have cameras which are sending video over IP. You're going to have voice which are embedded in it. You're going to be able to use the same IP infrastructure to talk back during hazardous situations, during regular disaster situations. You're going to be able to use voice over IP deployments to connect various infrastructure together that was earlier not connected. So we will see voice over IP as one of the embedded technologies in various devices which are there. So you will have smart gadgets which will have voice over IP and be connected over IP infrastructure, and therefore we will see voice over IP to be completely in the soft layer, connected to devices that were earlier not communication devices, they were simple data devices, suddenly become sensors for voice and sound. And that is where I see going the whole technology over voice over IP. It is not just about voice, it is about sound. It is about communicating high fidelity data which requires to be consumed on the other side as voice as sound. The next question, and this will be our last question, is from Ripan Singh. It is, will telcos, traditional telcos as a network provider, what thought process changes is required for telcos to be end-to-end smart city infra providers? That's a very good question, Ripan, because traditionally telcos have been very good and very efficient as a network technology provider. They have not been very good in providing solutions, end-to-end solutions. They have worked with partners like us, who will complete their service. Telcos have been very good in creating interoperable networks, but whenever it comes to solutions, they have tried to be monolithic providers. Very soon we are going to see them cooperating with companies like ours which are providing solutions to make it telco agnostic. You cannot bind a consumer to one telco. Today we have to allow various telcos to provide various bits of communication technologies to the end consumer who is asking for a service. He does not care whether telco A is providing it or telco B is providing it. He does not care whether it's an IP-based service or a non-IP based service. He wants good quality end-to-end service. The service could be a meter reading service, could be a tracking service, could be a voice service, could be a camera service, could be an alert service, could be any disaster service. So we are going to see telcos moving into or partnering with companies like ours to create end-to-end solutions. And I have seen that happen. I've been talking to a lot of them with the solutions that I bring to the table, and I see a huge amount of cooperation from all of them to make it happen. So I see this mindset changing, and I hope it continues so that we can provide better quality end-to-end smart city solutions to the marketplace.
Thank you, Dr. Chowdhury, for taking this webinar session on advances in telecom technologies assisting smart cities deployments. It was really an engaging and insightful talk, and we hope all the participants enjoyed the session. If there are any more questions, please write to us at editor@ettelecom.com. The recording of this webinar will be made available on ET Telecom by tomorrow. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar session. Signing off.